I was in Mbeere and I experienced firsthand a government meeting violence upon its own citizens. I was in a polling station that was occupied by a CS. I was in a polling station where police came and beat our people up, not goons, and sent them away. And I am saying this because I was there.
The police.
And they stuffed ballots as we looked at them. And there was nothing we could do.
Hey there and welcome to Fanya Mambo Africa. How are you?
Niko fiti.
Happy December.
Hey, napendwa huku. It's a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas in advance.
Ni vile tu siwezi vaa hapa, but I love it. It's beautiful. Thank you.
You see, even our setup, we are now officially. It's Christmas season.
It's Merry, 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 Merry Christmas.
How are you feeling?
I don't know. I feel different. Because it's one of those years that ends and you wish you would say, hii mwaka tumeachieve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I want to encourage every Kenyan who feels like this year I have achieved staying alive. I have achieved just, breathing in, breathing out. I've been able to stay to the end. I think clap for yourself. It's been a very difficult year. So anybody who is out there saying, I did not buy land, I did not buy a car, I did not do this, just breathe in, breathe out. If you are well and healthy, just thank God that you've gone through a very difficult year that is 2025. And we keep hope alive that 2026 will be a better year. So that's how I feel. I feel I'm at that stage where, sometimes I also feel what you read. Because I read a lot online and I read a lot and I see people and where they are. And I think it has affected how I also feel. And I want to tell Kenyans, I associate with what you feel. Hata mkisema it's looking like it's going to be a very broke Christmas, I associate with it. And all I can say is let us keep hope alive.
Keeping hope alive.
Yes.
Very important. Now, this is very interesting.
Yeah.
The last time you were here, you were too confident that you people are going to win in Mbeere, Malava, and other places through your united opposition seats. But somehow that has not happened. What happened in Mbeere?
Who told you we didn't win?
IEBC announced the win. In fact, Wamudenda is being sworn in today.
I'll tell you this. You see, it's one thing to take to parliament the MP that you want as government. And it's another thing to take to parliament with you the people that you want into parliament. I was in Mbeere and I experienced firsthand a government meeting violence upon its own citizens. I was in a polling station that was occupied by a CS. I was in a polling station where police came and beat our people up, not goons, and sent them away. And I am saying this because I was there.
The police.
And they stuffed ballots as we looked at them. And there was nothing we could do. And so I am sitting here and looking at a UDA government that is literally vomiting on the gains we have made in terms of electoral practices.
You have shared a lot of information. What do you mean they stuffed, they beat people? All these things happened.
This is what happened. And it happened in Mbeere where I was in a polling station. Policemen first, there was a heavy deployment of police. Purposely to intimidate men and women who came out to vote very, very peacefully. The whole morning, the people of Mbeere were not fighting against each other. Wamudhende's supporters, if he had any that we know, were not at war with Newton Karishe's supporters. We never saw a clash of supporters. So the deployment of police was purposely to intimidate the people. And the people went and voted. And once they were done voting, mess started happening in the evening. When now we saw polling stations being raided, polling stations being attacked, new ballots that we don't know where they came from being introduced, if the forms we had written being torn apart. Some of our young people, situlenda kuwachukua kwa kichaka usiku. In fact, pinning locations were sent. The driver for Manyata MP, Anthony Mukunji, had a bullet on his shoulder. And this was a police bullet. It was not a Goons bullet. And it's just because Mukunji had gone to say no to people stealing our votes. And if you want to know government lost in Mbeere North, do you know not even a squirrel came out to celebrate his win? Can you imagine 15,000 people voting for you, as they allege, and nobody feels ecstatic or excited about the fact that you've won? If anything, a UDA office was burnt the following day.
But that could be choreographed. It's politics.
So all we're trying to say is government knows they lost. It hurts them that they know they lost. It hurts them that they are meeting violence upon the same people who once voted for them, and that they are forcing down the throat of the people of Mbeere a candidate that the people of Mbeere did not want.
When you say that, yet the winning candidate had 15,000 and something. Karish had 15,000 and something. Let us even assume that the people did not vote. Is it possible for anyone to steal 15,000 votes, considering every stream has, there is a IEBC register?
There were pre-marked ballots, and we saw them. And they know they brought pre-marked ballots. They do. It's not like they don't, they do. They are the ones who introduced them. The violence was... Did you hear the state complaining about violence? Did you even have the state having a problem with violence? The state was okay that there was violence. They were happy that there was violence. They never condemned the violence. The CS Interior never woke up one day and said that Goons were in Mbeere and they were affecting the by-elections. They were not interested because it was their violence. One of the hallmarks of an election is its ability to be free and fair. Was the Mbeere election free? No. A lot of bribery went on. Was it fair? No. A lot of violence was meted on its people. Was it okay? No. Because as at the time they were announcing, it was a UDA announcement. Where were our people?
Where were your agents? That should be the question.
We were kicked out. In the polling station, I'm telling you that I was, where our people were kicked out. And we have those videos and we have shared. And this matter is moving to court. I've had Ndegwa Njiro and a few other advocates. We're just waiting for them to prepare their petition. So let them swear in their Wamudhende. By the way, it is their Wamudhende. He's not the Wamudhende of the people of Mbeere North. And I'll tell you why. You see, this government was keen on making sure that Mbeere North is never represented in parliament. And what better way than to bring Wamudhende? For two reasons. First reason is nobody remembers anything Wamudhende said during the campaign when he was looking for his own votes. We only remember what Mbarire said. And we also remember what Kindiki said. Wamudhende, 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 Wamudhende. We don't remember anything Leo Wamudhende said when he was campaigning. Do we remember what Newton Karish said? Oh yes. He was trending all over. He's a man who would look for votes for himself. He's a man who only needed the support of the united opposition. But in himself, he was able to garner votes for himself.
But you know, trends is not, it does not mean you will win.
No, let me tell you. All I'm trying to see is, I'm speaking now at the point of representation. A person who can campaign very well for himself will speak very well for his people. A person who cannot say anything you would remember after 3 months of a grueling election will never be remembered in parliament. And I want you to watch this space. But secondly, most importantly, why do you want to pick the person who is alleged to have had the biggest number of scandals, including the one that was all over the newspapers, about the hospital oxygen supply? And I remember even it was on primetime news and it was shared all the time. The reason is the government wanted the people of Mbeere not to be represented in parliament. Now, this is one person, every time he wants to speak against anything that the government has done, he'll be reminded Kenyatta National Hospital. He'll be reminded several hundreds of millions. He'll be told, you have a scandal to your name. He'll be told, you did not do this. You did this. You failed here. And so Wamudhende will never speak. He's muzzled before he begins. He will never speak for his people. When it comes to voting in parliament, that's a vote lost. The people of Mbeere have got no vote in parliament. In fact, they took their vote, the vote of the Mbeere people, and deposited it with the president and the deputy president. And from now on, Mbeere will always vote for anything that this government wants them to vote for. It's the same thing that happened in Malava.
Really?
Yes, Malava actually was a crime scene.
Why?
You saw the number of cars that were burned, the number of lives that were lost. At least on that day, 2 people died. Kasipul, since this whole thing began, it is said that about 15 people have lost their lives. The hallmark of any government is to protect human life, and then property follows. The fact that we are losing human life so that we can have a member of parliament tells you that government has failed. In fact, you don't need any other measure before you talk about government. The first measure is the ability to protect the lives of its citizens. And a government that fails to protect the lives of its citizens is a failed government. Then now you can talk about property and any other thing. Malava was a scam, it was a scam, it was a scam. And we all know it was. And the people of Malava know. Even this government knows. You know, there's nothing as sad for me as an administration that has lied to everybody. Oh, those guys have lied. They have lied to everybody. They lied, 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 they lied. And then they got to the point they discovered, wait a minute, there's one guy we've not been able to lie to. Ourselves. So let us do something that helps us to lie to ourselves. So they go out there and spend millions of shillings. In fact, in Malava, you remember videos of women being given mattresses and blankets on the voting day. And then they announce, because they announced that they have won by 1,000 votes. And then they clap for themselves and they honestly believe they won. What worries me now more deeply than even the lives lost is the fact that UDA believes they won. You know, can you imagine spending hundreds of millions of people's money in those by-elections, pre-marking ballots, introducing them, introducing goons, introducing police violence, and then literally robbing off people of their desired member of parliament, and then believing that you have won. And you sit and you sleep and you dream properly and you say, I won. You know, the fact that you believe your own lie tells me there's something very terrible with you and your personality. So Malava, Mbeere, and all those other places, it was a crime scene. It was a bloodshed. It was a place where government came to meet violence upon its own people. I saw images and videos of a very gigantic man who was really beaten up and stripped naked in Mbeere. And he confessed... Malava. And he confessed that he was from Nairobi. It goes to tell you, the fact that the state has not preferred to charge that person, it's their goon. Let me tell you, if that was an opposition goon, he would be in a cell today. Can you imagine maandamano used to happen? And the young people would come with a phone during maandamano, a phone and water. Wanajipata kwa Kimariamu, wamepelekwa Kahawa, they are charged with terrorism. But that guy, stout as he was, is found in the middle of a melee, causing violence in a place where he's not even a voter. And he goes scot-free. Because government is happy that we have violence and it's being meted on innocent people whose only crime was to wake up and say no to an administration that they do not want.
Okay. Your feelings are actually valid and maybe they represent those of others, but still for people who believe in the process or maybe looking at it from what democracy is, then that is what democracy is.
That's not democracy. Let me tell you, Sarah.
You know, what defines democracy?
Let me tell you, Sarah. Democracy is about the will of the people.
Yeah.
And anytime you subvert the will of the people, what the president and UDA is telling you is this, that you will have your say, but I'll have my way. And I will use your police, I'll use your resources, I'll use everything at my disposal to make sure I have my way. So your say is good, but it's not important. That's not what democracy was supposed to be. By the way, let me tell you, Can you close your eyes for a second and think about 2027? And ask yourself, what will happen if Fanya Mambo, for example, is allowed to come with pre-marked ballots, to come with goons, and to also work with police? Then I don't need to campaign. People will stop campaigning for 2027. That's what people are forgetting. Politicians will start stashing money and waiting for the election day. Then you go to IEBC and find out who can give you the votes for Dagoretti South, for example. How much do you want? 10 million. Here, give me 30,000 ballots. I go and mark for myself in my bedroom. Then I wait for 5 p.m. We saw the fat goon who nobody in government cares about. He's not even been charged up to now. So then I go and look for all the hooligans I can get all over the place and pay them. And then at 6 p.m., you introduce your ballots the forceful way. And then you hold the presiding officer by the whatever, and he announces you. I think this is not the state that we want to build. This is not the country that we want to build. Violence begets violence. And my worry is, I may be a person who believes in civility. And I've always said, if in Dagoretti South, the choice will be between shedding blood and never being elected, I would rather never be elected. Because if it gets to a point where Fanya Mambo has to look for 5,000 goons and tell them pigeni wale and run over the polling station and stuff ballots so that I become MP, I would rather remain a raya all my life. Living and knowing that you have no human blood to your name is a very peaceful thing. You sleep well, you wake up well.
But who's in charge of these goons? Because there's even a documentary that was done by Nation.
Yes.
That people are confessing it's politicians.
Yes.
And because we know it, so what next? The president the other day spoke about it and said they need to be arrested, or, commanding the Kanja, Inspector General, to take action.
He's not going to take action.
You think so?
Yes.
Why?
In Kariobangi, the DCP candidate, or the DCP leader, Rigathi Gachagua, had a church service. So he goes to have a church service, and tear gas is lobbed upon Sunday school children. I think that for me was the lowest. It was really low. It was terrible. It was low. Okay? Ask yourself, the head of state was also at a church service. Why were there no goons where the head of state was? Why was there no tear gas where the head of state was? Musalia Mudavadi, I believe, went to church that day. Why was there no tear gas? Why were there no tears? Why were children there not tear gassed? Yeah? Kalonzo Musyoka, every other person who went to a church service on that day, including me with my family, and there was no tear gas where I went to church. So first is a government meeting violence upon the former deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua. And they don't care. It's like you have a rat in your house and it hides behind the thermos. And you decide thermos plus panya, zote, gone. It goes to the TV behind the TV. You don't care whether it's a 65-inch TV. 65-inch TV, you're targeting the rat, you hit the TV. That's what this government is doing. Let me ask you. Because there is documentary and video evidence of some of those goons on even the national television stations, why has IG Kanja not been able to get them? Albert Ojwang made a tweet. There he says Subarus left Nairobi and drove all the way to Homa Bay, to a very humble village, and they fished Albert Ojwang for a Twitter post, yet even his photo was not on that Twitter post. Now we have goons wielding weapons, wielding machetes, wielding rungus, jembe sticks in Nairobi. Hawako Homa Bay. Hawako Homa Bay, my dear. Wako Nairobi. And the cameras have gotten a hold of what their faces look like. Those goons are walking free as we speak today, being a Tuesday. This happened on Sunday. So all I'm telling you is, if government was interested in ending the politics of goons, to start with, it is rumored some governors are actually in charge. those governors would be behind bars. We know them by name. The government knows them even better.
But could it be the reason why we saw the president on Monday give that directive about the arrest, or maybe just Kanja taking charge?
How many? So far, how many? Are you aware that these are goons who did not appear? They were called. They were mobilized. They were paid.
Why do you think these people, because nobody can say their profession is a goon, why do you think these young people have lowered to the point by where you're paid 500 to go and harm other people?
The government that said has created jobs for young people is now telling us that young people are so broke and they become goons for hire. Truth is, there's desperation amongst young people. And truth is, many of them have not been able to earn a genuine living, in as much as some of them are good people. In fact, sometimes I don't like to call them goons. I just call them victims of bad governance, who now are being used by the same people who have looted their own money to do the wrong things. As we speak, those goons, or those young people we tend to call goons, don't wake up and decide, leo tunaenda Kariobangi, kuna church ya Rigiji, tunaenda kuharibu. They don't do that. They are called, they are mobilized, they are paid. The reasons those goons will not, and I tell you they won't be arrested, is because once they go and you start cross-examination, they will say who pays them. They will say, what do they look very courageous? Until you put each of them in a cell alone and you start interrogating them and you tell them, now the price you are going to pay is a 5-year jail term. They say, mi niliitwa, na yeye aliitwa na nani. It will go all the way up and it will be messy.
What do you think is the danger that we are creating with this? Because we saw it in the demos in 2024. We saw it in 2025. On the political spaces, I think we've seen it now long enough. But what is the danger we're putting the country into through this sort of culture?
To start with, you're making the work of the police very hard. There was no lesson in police training where they were told lesson number 25 is how to suppress demos with goons near you. That's not a lesson they are taught in their training. How to communicate with goons and how to work hand in hand with goons is not part of police training. So you make the police force that has been respected for many things to be disrespected. And we make them carry a burden they are not supposed to carry. Because if these goons kill somebody, it is usually imputed on the police. So that is one of the first dangers. But the second one is these are young people who are our own that we are exposing to life, to death. And to think of the man who was beaten up in Malava. That beating, really, he did not deserve it. And also the humiliation of being stripped naked. The people who sent him are the ones who should have been stripped naked and humiliated like that. But they wouldn't have a problem with some of those very senior politicians who sent those young people being put naked in public because they are nakedly terrible people. So, but they hide behind things and send the young people to do the bad things that they wouldn't do by themselves, the things they wouldn't send their own children to do. And so for me, I think the danger lies therein that we are exposing our young people to a lot of harm for nothing.
Okay. Earlier this year or late last year, we sent our police to Haiti. And why we sent them is because, quote unquote, now those ones are gangs, which I want to believe stem up from hooliganism, which is what we see in politics. If we are at a place where we see what is happening in Haiti is bad because it's the goons, it's the gangs who take over government, what are we doing about our very own if it's the same leaders who sat and saw it wise to send our policemen to maintain peace? But here locally, it's the goons we are, prepping. What future are we setting up for this country?
I think Haiti was benchmarking. We had gone to learn on how to live our life with goons. And by the way, since our forces went to Haiti, these are the first times we are seeing police working hand in hand with goons. I think they learned that from Haiti. So we can't have gone there and come back empty-handed. We've come back worse than we were. And the longer we stay in Haiti, the longer we learn those bad manners of allowing terrible gangs to thrive. You know, let me tell you what is happening, and people don't see it. You know, Kenyans are very adaptive. When you sit and discover that the only way to win and sit in 2027 is to have a force of your own, when government okays the use of goons in public functions, do you know what will happen? Mongeke will come back. Chinkororo will come back. All these Baghdad boys, all those terrible outfits that were a pain to Kenyans will come back. And the reason they'll come back is because if I hear that at 6 p.m. my opponent is planning to come up with 300 young people and overrun a polling station, what do you think I'll do? I'll look for 700. And so when he comes with his 300 with pangas, I'll have 700. If this habit goes on, some people will realize, wait a minute, if they're coming with pangas and rungus, can we have 3 or 4 of us with guns? That's how goon republics are born. So the next thing you'll hear is, unataka kushinda uchaguzi, aujaona Al-Shabaab, aujaona sijui Mungiki, aujaona Baghdad boys, aujaona. And people will normalize putting aside money to see a gang leader and give them. Where does that put our young people? Where does that put our women, for example? How will an expectant mother go to vote, which is her constitutional right, knowing that gangs are all over polling stations? Knowing that even in that queue, your chances of losing your life is, unaweza sikia saa hiyo ndio wameamua kuvuruga. So for me, I wish to implore the government of Kenya, please desist from introducing the politics of goons into this country. Because if you do, we have people who are not like Fanya Mambo. We have people who don't care how much blood is shed as long as they become leaders. And there are very many. And those are the ones who will start going to Somalia, they'll start going to Ethiopia, they'll start going to wherever. You'll even have now goons from outside imported. There were reports of goons in Kabuchai who were from Uganda. And they were allowed to walk in and beat up our people in Kabuchai and go back to Uganda. So government, please, in the name of God, if you don't stem this goons culture and this culture of violence now, some politicians who have a lot of money will copy you. And I think the most precious commodity in the hands of young people is going to become a panga. Then that's not going to be a republic. I wouldn't want to be in Kenya at a time like that, when politics is being won on the basis of who's got the highest number of young people who can kill other young people. Yeah.
Okay. I hope the government really, as the president announced in the Inspector General and the forces, basically end that, because it's really unfortunate, it's uncalled for, and we are a country of order. So let's try and maintain that. Now, moving on swiftly, from your experiences with by-elections, what is your take on IEBC?
I am thoroughly disappointed in IEBC, completely and totally. So is every other Kenyan. Because when there is violence, when people are losing life, when property is being burned, those elections are not free and fair. And it is the duty of IEBC to first stop where they feel these things are not going the right way. Because they are aware that some politicians came and took over entire polling stations and tallying centers, they should have stopped it right there and said, this is not what a free and fair election looks like. And said IEBC is not going to announce a winner because this tallying center was invaded.
But was it reported?
Did. Yes, it was. And OB numbers are there. So IEBC has failed Kenyans, and it will continue to fail Kenyans. We still strongly would want to understand how those people who came to the polling stations we were in got those pre-marked ballot papers. Why were they carrying ballot papers? Where did they get them? Who gave them? Why is IEBC? Because then that creates another angle. If you are vying wherever in Kabuchai, you go to IEBC, find a way to get your ballots beforehand. Because these opponents of ours had their ballot beforehand. Those are questions that IEBC must answer.
Okay.
And we are waiting eagerly for them to answer. Because if they don't, then Kenyans lose faith in them.
But, I think these are questions, if we're to be logical, that can only happen if the judicial process takes its course, right?
Not really. You see, elections are happening all over the world.
Yes.
And they are not this emotive. There's a huge trust deficit in this country. The security features on our ballot papers cost more to imprint and print the ballot than the ballots are actually worth. In fact, we ran the most expensive election in the world if you divide per person at about 2,800 shillings per person. That's what it costs for IEBC to be able to have one voter voting. Just take their budget, divide by the number of voters. Our countries nearer us, like Uganda and Rwanda, in fact, Rwanda here, they print their own ballots. We can't. And it's not that we don't have good printing equipment. It's just that we must print from abroad because we don't trust one another. And our people have bad manners. So unless we change the ethics, unless we change the software of our people, it's going to be very hard no matter what we do.
So whether we print in or out there, the difference is the same.
It's the same.
So now when you look at IEBC and how they were able to conduct the by-election, and now that was a very small number of people voting anyway. Now looking at it, we're going to have about, I don't know how many registered voters, give and take maybe 20 million.
No, we were 22, so we'll be close to 30 million.
That's a lot of hope when they're saying the registration has not been happening.
It was not, continue.
So with that number and the number of constituencies, the number of counties, the president, the MCA wards, all these, what are your expectations for 2027 with that in mind?
Ethicon must go.
Now, we can't live saying must go without
He has proven that he needs to go. We don't have an IEBC. What we have is a tool at the disposal of the executive. In fact, Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, IEBC, is independent of everything, including thought. Because they have shown us clearly that they're incapable of giving us a free and fair election and a credible one.
So are you saying that you do not want an election in 2027?
No, we want an election in 2027, but not in the shape and form that we saw happen
in Mbeere
and Malava.
Why I'm asking you that? Because remember how long it took for us to have IEBC?
Yes.
If we are to go through the same process today, let's assume we're in December, maybe in January, fine, Ethicon must go and he goes. Basically, we do not have an election.
That terrible side of him must go. I think we need to dip him in water and baptize him afresh. He needs to renew himself for the sake of the country.
And renewing means?
Stop being a UDA apologist and stop doing things for the government and start doing things for Kenyans. Let me tell you something that happened in this country. In Kiambaa constituency, there arose a by-election. And that is when Kawajiko became Member of Parliament. To start with, throughout the entire campaign when UDA was campaigning, Jubilee and Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta never interfered with UDA. We have been met with violence everywhere we have gone to campaign for DCP candidates and opposition candidates. Even in Malava, when they were fighting for a DAP candidate, they were met with state-sponsored violence. Now, that is, you have problems during campaigns. During the day of the elections, even your candidates, like we had our candidate here in Narok, his home was raided during the day of the elections by people who are purported to be unknown, but government is not keen on following. Now, on the day of the election, then there was a lot of, violence and fighting and voter stuff, both ballot stuffing and so on and so forth. At the time of announcement, you even go ahead and refuse to announce the people's will and announce your own will. I think Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta was a gentleman. He allowed UDA first to campaign unabated. He allowed for voting to happen without intimidation. He allowed for counting to happen in a transparent manner. In fact, I will borrow Kawajiko's words and say in a transparency manner. He allowed the voting to happen in a transparency manner. And when the results were announced, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta did not interfere. He allowed them to have their Kawajiko in parliament. The only thing we were asking for, the only crime we were being punished for, the only crime we were being beaten up for, is the crime of saying that it is not Leo Amudhede we want, it is Newton Karish. It is not this Nadwa guy of theirs, it is Seth Panyako. So the people were choosing their persons, but the government was forcing its candidate on the people.
Okay. Again, your feelings, valid, totally. And it is okay. Now, Mount Kenya.
Yeah.
Ni noma si noma.
Ni fire si fire.
Nani ndio kingpin sasa?
There's this interesting belief and thought that there is this person who is a king of the mountain. And now that Mbeere has been stolen, because it was stolen, that Kindiki is the king of the mountain.
Isn't he?
He cannot be. He will never be. Raila, for a long time, may he rest in peace, was king of the Luos. How much money did he ever spend on any of his rallies or meetings? That's how you know a king. How much money does Kalonzo Musyoka spend when he goes to meet his people? Mwaisikia Kalonzo amemobilize anatumia pesa kupea watu. Kalonzo doesn't do that. That's how you know a king. George Natembea is holding meetings with thousands of people even when they are campaigning in Malava, in Kisia. How much money did Natembea give to people? When you are king, people come to you for free. So between Rigathi Gachagua and Professor Kindiki, who is king? I have told you the king is the man to whom people come with or without money. In fact, they bring to you. It happened to Baba all the time. People brought their resources to help in his campaign. He would have a pay bill anytime he had an election, and people contributed. Have you ever seen the Kindikis of this world asking people to contribute? In fact, if you want to know you are king, ask people to contribute for your campaign. If you want to know that Obama was king, he woke up and he said, I don't have the billions that Americans have, but I'm looking for $1, $2, $5, $10. What happened? If you want to know a person who votes for you, a person who will give you their money will vote for you. If you want a contest between Kindiki and Rigathi Gachagua, let us put up 2 pay bills and make it permanent and make it public. And let's say how many people will contribute their own 10 shillings to Rigathi Gachagua and how many people will contribute their own 10 shillings to Kindiki. And because Safaricom is so fair, Safaricom will not allow you to, put in 10 million. If it's a 10 bob, it's a 10 bob on M-Pesa. So you know them not by how much they shout when you give them money, but how much they are willing to get their own resources and bring you. That's when you know someone who cares about you. So the king of the mountain is he to whom people will bring gifts.
So kwa sasa hatuna fire si fire.
There is no fire there.
Even
It's
after they both did breakfast diplomacies.
It's a stale fire.
In Mbeere.
It's a stale fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you think.
Yes.
Okay.
But on the same, there's something Rigathi Gachagua said in Kariobangi about Nairobi having DCP candidates.
That is what I was coming to.
Oh, thank you.
Because now you keep telling us it's a united opposition. Rigathi comes and announces Nairobi will be purely DCP from I don't know how many MPs, wards, governor, Senate, women rep, then Kalonzo and we have the video evidence.
Yes.
It's not AI. Kalonzo somewhere in, I don't know where in Ukambani says, no. They are just putting words in his mouth so that they separate us. You want to tell me Kalonzo didn't watch that video to hear what
I'll tell you
Rigathi
this,
said?
the words that were put into Rigathi's mouth. Rigathi Gachagua, the leader of DCP, is campaigning and bargaining for his stake in the united opposition. The words they are trying to put in his mouth is that he said Kikuyus should get those seats in Nairobi.
I don't think anyone has mentioned
That's what
Kikuyu.
they're
He
saying
said
online.
DCP. Okay.
That's what they're saying online. That's why I want to change that.
Okay.
So he said these seats are for DCP.
Yes.
Now, let us come to those people who are shouting at Rigathi Gachagua. I want UDA to show us their UDA gubernatorial candidate for Kisumu. I want UDA in this broad-based arrangement to show us how many candidates UDA fronted in Kasipul. I want UDAs to show us how many candidates they are going to front in Homa Bay as UDA. I want UDA to come and tell us if they are going to front any candidate at the coast region where ODM was contesting. They are not fronting. They are not fronting. Why? Because UDA has negotiated with ODM that ODM will field in Mombasa, that ODM will field in Homa Bay, that ODM will field in Kisumu, that UDA will not have a gubernatorial candidate for Kisumu. Yeah? But now, DCP kikuja ikisema wamenegotiate na Wiper, that Wiper will not field a candidate for Wiper in Nairobi, and instead that candidate will be a DCP candidate.
No, but the guys from Wiper are not happy about that announcement.
So this is what I want us to agree. This is what I want us to agree. Show us now, I flip it again. Show me any ODM candidate in Eldoret.
No, leave ODM out of this.
Because those are the people who are shouting
It's fine. Us. I am asking you as someone who other people are watching and wondering too. What is it that you want to tell Wiper about Nairobi?
No, this is not what we want to tell Wiper about Nairobi.
They're not even happy about it.
What Rigathi Gachagua is saying is that DCP has come with its bargaining on the table. This is what we want.
So is it agreed?
And then why? No, it's not yet there. I can tell you has not been agreed. Okay? Wiper will also come with their demands. For example, Wiper can demand for Nairobi governor. They can demand for Nairobi deputy. These are parties that are willing to work together. Okay? When Uhuru and Ruto were forming government, they agreed on a 50-50. In as much as Uhuru brought more in terms of votes to that government than Ruto did. But they agreed on a 50-50. In this arrangement that is UDA, Kenya Kwanza, Kenya Kuisha, I don't know, UDA was to have a percentage. This party, Musalia Mudavadi and his team were to get a percentage of government. Wetangula and his team were to get a percentage of the government. And they also agreed. That is why UDA did not have candidates in some parts of Bungoma.
That's true.
Because Ford Kenya was going to field. So that same thing that they do, when we do it and speak about it, they have a problem. By the way,
but let me
these
ask
are
you.
The same people in UDA who did not want KANU to field a candidate in Baringo because KANU would have ashamed them. They are the same people who did not want ODM to field a candidate in Baringo. Paka wanakubaliana. Hapa Baringo ni UDA. ODM haiwezi simamisha mtu Baringo. And ODM has accepted that they can have a candidate in Baringo. But when we come and say that we are negotiating with Wiper so that Wiper does not have a candidate in some parts of Nairobi, then everybody is making noise. Let me tell you.
But let me ask you.
For example, we have a Wiper candidate.
Fine. Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
As looking at it from a democratic point of view and knowing what Nairobi County means to this country, is it fair that you demand that all seats belong to one party?
It's not going to be all seats.
No,
as we
that
speak
is what
right
he
now,
said.
no, as we speak right now, the MP for Embakasi South is a Wiper candidate, okay? Is a Wiper MP. There are places within this Nairobi where Wiper has got members of parliament. I can assure you 100% that those places DCP will not field. In fact, if anything, we will campaign. You're forgetting that DCP is a party that went to Mbeere and campaigned for a DP candidate.
Totally agree.
Yeah, so we are ready as a party to have conversations with people in terms of who vies where, okay? And where we feel that Wiper vying against DCP, we would lose that seat to an ODM fella, like we did in Kariobangi. Kariobangi, by the way, there was a very high temptation for Wiper to field a candidate. We would have split the votes and ODM would have won the MCA seat. And I thank Wiper for being magnanimous and refusing to field. And DCP has taken that.
You know,
we are happy to return the favor.
Mm-hmm.
We are happy to say, to have a meeting with Wiper. If, for example, and we are hoping we don't have another by-election because we've seen the things that are going on. But say God in his wisdom decides to give us a by-election in a place, and it becomes reasonably clear that Wiper stands a better chance here than DCP. Believe you me, whether that seat is in Nairobi or not, it's going to be a Wiper seat.
You know, I
And
feel
DCP
politicians are just mean people in a way,
No, we are not
because
mean.
you're now dictating to the people that us now the citizens, that we will just give you this one candidate. So if I don't like
It's not
this
the
one,
candidate we are choosing for them.
whatever the party.
It's the party. What we are saying
You see,
is
if
this.
I'm not a member of DCP, then let's say I belong to PLP, assuming, and PLP had the best of candidates, but because DCP has said they will field a candidate, then this one is left. Anyway, those are the issues about democracy at the end of the day.
I want you to understand one thing. If, say, for example, there was a Wiper MP in a constituency and it's within Nairobi, and that Wiper MP ceases to be MP for whatever reason, and a by-election falls, what will happen is that DCP will not field a candidate. They will tell Wiper to go through their internal mechanisms of coming up with a candidate, including running a nomination exercise, so that all those people who feel they would like to vie within the Wiper umbrella will go through that process. Whatever candidate Wiper is going to bring from that process, we in the united opposition will support that candidate. Now, it's the same thing. We had a candidate in Mbeere as DCP. We withdrew that candidate.
You know, 2027 is a flat ground.
And that's
in
why
the sense
you,
that it's a clean sheet.
I was in Azimio. In Azimio, there was something that was called zoning.
Yes.
They came and said, for example, in our Idhaka ward, the previous MCA, for example, was a Jubilee MCA. So we can't have ODM and Jubilee that are working together fighting, because hata mkikutana kwa campaign, then you are fighting. Okay, it's friendly fire, but it still kills. So we say, you know, a bullet that is friendly and a bullet that is not friendly, both of them will kill you.
Yeah.
So we said in Waithaka we'll have just a Jubilee candidate. We came to, Jubilee would have wanted to field a candidate in Kileleshwa. But they said no, because it appears ODM has a stronger footing here. We'll allow ODM to have their candidate in Kileleshwa. Jubilee, that was working with Nini, did not field a candidate there. So those places that are traditionally places where parties have had a stronger foothold, those ones will be respected. But let nobody who, because the first people I had complaining are people who are in UDA. And I was asking, UDA, tuonyesheni candidate wenyu wa Kasipul. Hawana? Because they've had a conversation with ODM. Tunaambia nyinyi mnapiga kelele ka ODM. Tuonyesheni candidate wenyu wa Baringo senatorial seat. Kwani ODM haijue Baringo iko wapi? They never fielded a candidate. So when DCP comes and says that we are making arrangements within ourselves with Wiper, that's our own problem. And by the way, if we have a problem with Wiper, and I pray that we don't, if internally we have a problem, we shall not take advice from UDA, and we shall not take advice from ODM about how to live. You know, if you have a problem with your wife at home, please don't take advice from your enemies who are also fighting in their broad-based and cake-based and bread. Baka keki zingine zinatemwa. You can't take advice from those people. You only take advice from people who mean well for you. So if we make mistakes between ourselves within the wider opposition, including tukikosana na tembea, we are human, tunaweza kosana kesho na turudi marafiki. Tunaweza kasirishana kidogo. I mean, it happens all the time, even in personal relationships. We are willing to sit down as a house and say, hapo tulikosana, tulikanyagana kidogo, tunarekebishana, tunaombana msamaha, tunaendelea. We are not a perfect house.
Okay.
We are a united opposition that comes with its own human frailties. And we are willing to deal with them, but we know our principal enemy, ako huko nje, na anahead UDA.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Kenyans expect more of such conversations.
Oh yeah, they will happen.
And statements.
Oh, they will happen.
Even as we go to 2026,
oh, yes.
Because now it's going to get
Unajua,
more
kwa
lethal.
siasa, unaweza kuwa kwa podium. kitu ikutoke out of excitement alafu useme oh yeah whatever, mpaka ukikuja by the time before even you say you're sorry, we can see you are sorry. So that will happen a lot. The most important thing is how we make out of it. I mean, I see a husband who does things and then he goes home and apologizes to his wife. I see a wife who says things and then goes home and says, look, bado tuko na watoto tunalea, bado tunapendana, hii nyumba yetu tukifunga usiku, tunatengeneza mambo yetu polepole. It's the same. Sisi our goal is good. Our intentions are clear. And by the way, when Rigiji said that, you could tell his intentions were not to lock Kalonzo out of Nairobi. His intentions is to lock UDA out of Nairobi, to kick UDA out of Nairobi completely. So, and sometimes in your rage and your energy, trying to kick UDA out of Nairobi, you might say
you
things,
kick your people.
Yeah, and then unakuja uambie hiyo teke haikuwa yako, ilikuwa yeah. So that's happening. That's
Okay.
happening, yeah.
We wish you all the best with that. We will be there. I mean, the 2026 is coming and sure politics will be hot. Something that happened, I think, is it this week or last weekend? The president is as sure as the sun rises that before he dies, Kenya will have turned into Singapore. He said, if I was to live for the next 30 years, I'm certain it is possible to move Kenya from third world to Singapore status.
First, Kenya is not third world. It's a middle income economy.
It's developing. So.
Developing. But you don't move to Singapore by reducing capitation for schools and make it impossible for your people to go to school. You don't get to Singapore by moving from a working NHIF to a SHA that is not working. People who are dying in hospitals don't end up in Singapore. You'll not see Singapore when you are dead. You don't move from what you are calling third world to where you'd want to be in Singapore by instigating violence in Malava. You don't move from where you are to a first world country by waking up to the realization that 300 billion has been lost. You don't move to Singapore by waking up to but by the way, there is something that Singapore did that Kenya does not want to do, but Kenya wants to get to where Singapore was.
Which is?
Singapore, when their leader took over, he swore to something called meritocracy. And he started choosing the best of the best. You know, the best banker to head our treasury. The best engineers to head our Ministry of Transport and our Ministry of Roads and so on and so forth. You know, the best lawyers to head our Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. And the best human rights defenders to be in. So he chose the best to turn the country into the best. Here in Kenya, you choose the worst with the worst criminal records and you give them positions and then you wonder why Kenya will not become Singapore. Mudhende is an example that Mbeere people wamesomesha watoto wao. It was possible to get somebody without allegations of criminal records upon their head. But you want somebody with a tainted record. And then you wonder how he will not move Mbeere from where it is to where you want it to be. Our principal secretaries, some of them, have been implicated in so many corruption scandals, including some that we inherited from the previous regime. Our cabinet secretaries, some of them, the skeletons they have in their cupboards are too many. Some of our cabinet secretaries are so incompetent that even a private school would not hire them to be a headmaster. But they are running very important ministries. So Kenya is not going, and take this, Kenya is not going to become Singapore. It's going to become Singapore. It's not going to become Singapore. Kenya will become Singapore the day we will first get the best president. The number two, the best ministers, the best attorney general, the best of the best in every sphere, and we have them. Who is running KQ? Who is running? Ask anything that where public money has been put, who is in charge? Once you have the best that the country has, and only the best, ukisikia uni second best unachana naye, you go for number one, the best. Then watch Kenya transform. But for now, Kenya is not going to go there. You cannot become a president who speaks about Singapore with one side of the mouth and Wamudhende with the other side of the mouth. Oxygen is such a critical thing. If you don't have it for 2 minutes, you are dead. So you can imagine how many intervals of 2 minutes people have not been have been without oxygen at Kenyatta National Hospital, and how many we have lost. And then you think those are God's blessings. That right now, that's a very blessed guy. He's the Lord's choice. He's anointed of the Lord from kitu gani. It's not going to happen that way. So until we are ready for the best, we shall never become the best.
Okay. True. That makes a lot of sense. Out of curiosity, have you guys gone back to Mbeere?
No, I haven't had reason to.
Mm-hmm.
But we've had conversations, especially with the few that we left in hospital and now they've left hospital. And there's a dark cloud. It's very sad. You'd think there was a mass burial in Mbeere. You know the way Suluhu right now, Tanzania is a grave. Nobody's talking. It's quiet. It's sad. It's smelling of human blood. People are unhappy. You know, you can't have 15,000 people voting for you. And then Mbeere is sad. It's a terrible place to be. And you're an MP and people don't even, at least hata squirrel moja ingejitokezea tu celebrate a bendera ya UDA. Nobody did. So, I don't even know how they feel. If I was a Modende, I wouldn't take that oath. It is against the people. No, let me tell you, Sarah.
It's not practical in Kenya.
No, let me tell you, Sarah. You see, sometimes you think that becoming an MP is a very important thing. It's a good thing because you can change the country. But if by becoming the MP, you stand against the will of very many thousands of people, and every time they wake up in the morning, they look up to God and tell God, yani sisi tulifanya kazi yetu kashindwa na yako. Because from where mahali tulifika, do you know at some point, I was in my car with one person and we were leaving, is this town, it's called, remember the name. When we were leaving, at some place we found ourselves in a crossfire between police and young people. And that night, we were surrounded by about 30, 40 policemen. And I thank God for these TV interviews. Because somebody said, Fanya Mambo ingekulikuwa si wewe. Wewe tunakujua na unatuteteanga. Even the police told me, unatuteteanga sana. Ingelikuwa si wewe, tungevunja hiyo mikono na miguu. And I thought, what about all those other Kenyans whose only crime is to say, please let us participate in counting of our votes. Let us witness the counting of our votes peacefully. It's the only crime. And they were scattered and beaten. And I wish I had the power, but these were about 30 policemen. We were only 2 of us in my car. And 2 or 3 or 4 of them recognized me. And they said, hey, Fanya Mambo unatuteteanga sana. So, I think from where I sit, we may not go back to Mbeere, but our hearts haven't left Mbeere. Our minds haven't left Mbeere. And so is Malava and all the other places. And we will keep reminding this administration that you know you lost. And it hurts you that you know you lost.
So no more breakfasts in Mbeere. You know, let me tell you, the thing that I think Kenyans need to understand is the things that politicians, government or opposition, do for politics purposes. We saw Rigathi, we saw Professor Kindiki, all of them were having breakfast here, there, you know, growing the economy. And why I asked if you've gone back to Mbeere is because the hearts of people are so lifted at that moment of campaign that when they have that gap of, you know, coming back to reality of, oh, it was a cloud that was passing. And now this is the new normal. And what does this new normal mean for us as citizens? Even as we go towards 2027, do we understand that flow of, you know, money, helicopters, everything that will be happening, do we understand what it means and what the impact is after?
I'll explain this. First, it's a normal human phenomenon. There's a lot that happens just before your wedding. All the activities are high. The minute people cut cake, it becomes a descent, you know? Because the climax of it ends when people are cutting cake. Then people start getting busy and going back to their lives.
Yeah.
And really they have to leave the bride and groom to go now to their honeymoon, and we can't come to start interfering in their lives. The burial is the same thing. There's a lot of people coming to your matanga, your matanga, your matanga, your matanga. And then most of the times you are left alone at home. Really, at home. Even the people who were going to Raila's grave now, it's going down. It's not increasing. It's going down. At some point, they won't be there. They won't be going. Just like they went a lot after Jaramogi was buried. Now there's just a mausoleum there that very many people don't go to see Jaramogi anymore. It happens in all spheres of life. It's not just in politics. That now we are telling the people of Mbeere, unfortunately now you have a groom. It's a terrible groom, but you have a groom. And we have to let you try to find a way to jail with your groom for the time being. Yes, there are court cases being prepared. And yes, there's a very likelihood that this matter will be entertained in court. And we see how that goes. But it's not just us leaving the people of Mbeere alone. If they had buried their mother, it would have happened. You are left as family alone now. Just see the grave. And it reminds you how many thousands of people came to bury. And if they had lost or if they were having a wedding, it's the same. Once the tents and chairs are taken out of sight, you're just left with your rings to remember that there was a wedding. So to the people of Mbeere, we have not done anything unusual. It happens in all spheres of life.
When you think at it critically, the point I'm driving to, the choices you make have consequences.
Yes.
So for us Kenyans, because we shall be voting in 2027, but next year the hype will be at its climax, starting, I'm sure by Jan-Feb, the political heat will be so high.
Maybe August. Many civil servants.
As this year already has been political.
No, I'll tell you why. There are very many people who are still with government who are afraid to resign because it's too early. There are so many people who are in UDA, but their hearts belong to the opposition. And they are afraid to leave because it appears too early. So very many people will wait until August when it's exactly 1 year to the election. Some even wait to December. Then they come out. So the true test will be January 2027, because between January and August is a whole 8 months. So the true test now will be January 2027. That's when you will see the true colors.
Okay.
Yeah.
But people need to make sober choices as we go,
Yes.
all along.
Yes, they do.
Okay. This has been fantastic speaking to you. But as we finish, I understand you have a tour. I don't know whether you want to hint on it to our viewers.
I would like to say that Kenyans living in Germany are ardent followers of this show have invited me. And it's not just Germany. I have an invitation for Canada, I have an invitation for the UK, and one for the US. But those ones are still in the pipeline. But Kenyans living in Germany told me, Fanya Mambo, come. Let us have these conversations here in Germany. Let us, come. We have a dinner and we have another Jamhuri Day event. Just come and address us. So, God willing, I plan to travel there sooner than you can imagine.
Oh.
And I intend to, share that moment with Kenyans. It's a great honor. I mean, most of the time, the people who get chances to address Kenyans abroad are presidential candidates. I am not even a sitting MCA. But by God's grace, they've given me that honor to go and share with them and address them. And also hear from them, because the diaspora community is very deeply invested here. And they love their country and they want to know how they can help the country and themselves for that matter. So this engagement is what we shall be having. And we've been having even them happening here. We've been having Face the People in Kisumu. We've done Mombasa. On Friday I did Ufungamano. We met the people and we had a very nice conversation one-on-one. We've done Face the People Nakuru. We are hoping to do Face the People in all the counties in this country. And now I'm going to a country outside of Kenya. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited, I must say. Only a little bit worried because it's winter. Been abroad when it's not winter. Now I'm going there when it's winter. So we'll deal with it as it comes. But we shall be wishing you a Merry Christmas from that side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wish you all the best. Say hi to our fans down I don't know whether that is down or up. I'll need to check them up to be sure. But tell them we appreciate their efforts. We see them in the comment section. We see you. We see your participation, and we totally appreciate it. Good luck with that. Pass our love to them, and Merry Christmas to those who will not be coming home. To those summer bunnies, you're welcome home. It's summertime, as always in Kenya, and we appreciate you. Closing remarks to the viewers across.
I think my closing remarks are strictly conciliatory, saying that the government has to help us change how elections will be done in 2027. And only government can do that. They have to deliberately stop the violence. They have to deliberately instill confidence in Kenyans about IEBC. How they'll do that? It's their deliberate effort. Because those things that burn the country is when I know that so-and-so is allowed to use violence, but I'm being stopped from using violence. Because what then I do is I look for stronger forces of violence. The next thing I also want to say is when I know that IEBC will not be a fair referee, then I will choose to make sure that those elections are bungled. So I'd like to tell the government, please, first you have a huge duty of restoring trust and faith and hope in IEBC. And you have another huge duty of stopping any form of violence that happens during an election so that people can come and participate freely. Otherwise, if you don't do that, violence begets violence. And mistrust is bad. Kenyans are very ingenious people. They just need to know how that ballot looks like, and they'll print similar ones. And we don't want that. We want a country that is sober, a country that respects the rule of law, a country that does things the way they're supposed to be done. That can only happen if government chooses to lead from the front and to let us follow them. That's all I can say.
All right. Great. Yeah. Thank you so much for being with us throughout this year. It's been amazing always looking at what is happening in the country. Yes. And as you have said, let's love our country. We do this for the love of this country. We do this because we want a better Kenya. And hopefully even those in leadership, the police, everyone who has a position of power and influence, do it for the love of Kenya. For every Kenyan, stay woke and always speak out when you see things happening. Don't stay silent. When you stay silent, things will be messed. But if you keep speaking, then we will have a better country that we envision. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you on the next episode.